Hey, what is going on guys? RvzStealth here, and in today's video, we're going to be taking a look at the best champions for low elo for Season 8. I have yet to make a video on this topic so far in Season 8, and I usually do one at the start of every season, so I thought it'd be interesting here to take a look at the best champions, mainly for silver, for bronze, and this could also apply for gold as well. So to start it off in the top lane, this is going to be my number one choice for top lane in this patch, and what I'm going to try to do for all of the roles is the champion that I do talk about first and I say is number one is going to be the champion that I think is the most impactful for that role in this patch. So the first one here for the top lane is going to be Sion. So Sion overall is just a very strong top lane pick. He doesn't really have a weak point to his game. He's not really exploitable either at any point in the game. He's got a strong laning phase. He scales really well into the mid to late game. You build full tank on the champion and you're still going to deal a ton of damage because he's got really good base damages in his kit. He's a super good roaming top laner as well with his ultimate, so you can win your lane as Sion and then you can very easily look to make ult plays around the map to help your team out. His matchups right now are also super good against a lot of the most picked top laners. He's got a 58% win rate against Pantheon, a 55% against Teemo, 57 against Camille, so he just does really well against a lot of the most picked top laners in the lower elos. So my second pick for top lane here is Yorick. Now Yorick isn't a pick you see very often, and I think that's one of the reasons as to why he is a very strong pick. He's a champion to where if you fight this guy and he's got his ghouls out and he's got his ultimate, he can turn a ton of 1v2 scenarios and end up getting a double kill at level 6. Yorick's damage is definitely something that people underestimate a lot of the time, and if you are a good Yorick player, then you can really take advantage of that and you can win a lot of 1v1 scenarios very easily and even 1v2 scenarios at level 6. Yorick's got one of the best split push for any top laners as well. He can take the demolish and very easily take down towers. His Q is also gonna deal extra damage to towers, and combine that with a sheen, he's just gonna be able to split push, and if you leave him alone, he's gonna take your towers down very fast. He also has the ability to solo the Rift Herald very early on into the game because his ultimate can be there to tank it and it can be there to take aggro, so there's very low risk in going for an early Herald with Yorick. And then my third pick for the top lane is going to be Garen. So Garen overall is just the best top laner for the lower elos. If you're new to top lane, if you're looking to switch over to top lane, he's just overall a simple champion to pick up. It's only going to take you probably 2 or 3 games, maybe even less than that. Probably like your first game, you'll get the hang of Garen very easily, and he is going to be a very strong pick in a lot of different situations. He's even getting buffed in next patch too, so that's another reason that you should consider picking up Garen. And then if we move into the jungle now, my number one pick is going to be Warwick. So Warwick is basically the Sion of the jungle in the sense that he's just got a very strong kit overall, and he's got a very forgiving kit for solo queue. He's got great sustain, which means that it doesn't really matter how you clear it in the jungle, you're always gonna be full HP and you're always gonna be able to do something around the map. So you don't really have to base in a lot of situations to where other junglers would have to base. He also has the best counter gank ability in the game with his W, so you can be in the wrong place at the wrong time, and because of his W, he's going to be able to get around the map very fast, and he's going to be able to counter gank better than any other jungler in the game and just turn a lot of situations around to where a different jungler would not be able to do that. So my second pick for the jungle is going to be Volibear. I think that Volibear is just a very underrated pick for the lower ranks especially. People just don't respect or won't respect his passive. His ability to duel in the early game is actually really good, and he can do well against a lot of the most picked junglers in the lower ranks like Kha'Zix and Lee Sin. And then similar to Warwick, he's basically just a tank that also does a ton of damage, so you can make a lot of mistakes on Volibear and because he is more tanky, and because you do have your passive to kick in as well, you can get caught out in certain situations and you're not going to just die right away. Whereas if you are playing one of these more riskier junglers that's very squishy, like Kha'Zix or Master Yi, if you end up making that one mistake in a team fight, then it is going to cost you, but that's not going to be the case a lot of the time on Volibear. And then my number 3 pick for the jungle here is going to be Xin Zhao. Now I like to think of Xin Zhao as basically the Master Yi with crowd control. I was considering having Master Yi at this spot because I do think he is also a pretty strong pick, but Xin Zhao just has the ability to be a more consistent pick in my opinion, due to the fact that he can impact the game a lot more than Master Yi in the early game. And once you do start team fighting, once you reach the mid to late game, he's got a very forgiving kit as well, because even if you make a mistake in a team fight with Xin Zhao, you kind of have that get out of jail free card with your ultimate. If you go in and your team isn't there to follow up right away and you're caught out of position, then you can just pop your ultimate and you're not going to take any damage from the enemy AD carry. You can wait for your team to follow up and then you can re-engage if your team is there. So if we move into the mid lane now, my number 1 pick is going to be Veigar. So Veigar is here for a few different reasons. The first one is that he scales infinitely, so it doesn't even matter if you don't do super well in the early game as Veigar. If you reach the 30 to 40 minute point, which is going to happen a lot of the time, then you're always going to be a useful pick. You do have the crowd control with your E, which is a very strong zone tool in team fights, and you can just one-shot pretty much whoever you want in the mid to late game, so it doesn't really even matter if the enemy Kha'Zix gets fed or somebody on the enemy team ends up getting fed, because you will be able to deal with them very easily. And this rune and build setup that a few high elo Korean Veigar players are running right now, I think is especially good for the lower elos. What they're doing is they're taking Predator as their keystone rune and they're rushing a Shurelya's, and what you're going to want to do with this build and rune setup is you just want to constantly be looking for picks with your E. Whenever your Predator is active, if you see the enemy out of position, if you just see the enemy AD carry randomly farming in the middle of the mid lane, pop your Predator, pop your Shurelya's, go in there and one-shot them, and with this rune and build setup, you can just find picks very easily and you can get a really good snowball going in the early game. My number 2 pick for mid lane for this patch is Malzahar. So because Malzahar's early game really isn't as exploitable in the lower ranks, it does make him a very consistent pick. As long as you can get past the first few levels on Malzahar, if you can get to your Lost Chapter, then you're pretty much set for the rest of the game. His shove is the best for any mid laner, or it's the easiest to pull off for any mid laner once you do grab your Lost Chapter, because all you have to do is plant your E on the minions, let your W out, and you can just freely roam after that, because your W is just going to do the work for you on the wave, and you can really easily get lane priority as Malzahar and look to go for roams and get picks with your ultimate. And then a lot of the time, people aren't going to go for a QSS rush in the lower ranks. What a lot of people will do in higher ranks is they'll just rush a QSS, and it will make Malzahar's effectiveness a little bit weaker, or quite a bit weaker in the early game, but people are probably only going to be picking up QSS at around their 3rd or 4th item, so it just means that Malzahar's ability to take over a game early on is very easy to do. And then my final pick for the mid lane here is going to be Annie. Now this one shouldn't be too much of a surprise. Annie should pretty much always be on a low elo list for the best mid laners, mainly because she's just probably the best champion if you are looking for someone to pick up if you're new to mid lane. If you're just looking to learn the game, then Annie is a great pick to play. Her Q allows her to CS very easily in the laning phase, so you're not really going to be missing a ton of CS on Annie. She also does have a very simple, very linear burst combo that you're going to be wanting to run every single fight. Just hitting that Tibbers on multiple targets is always going to be what you're looking to do, and because of that, it just doesn't make her, or you don't really need a ton of decision making when you are playing Annie. So if we move over to AD carry now, the number one AD carry is probably one that I've had on my number one spot for the past couple of years now, and it's Miss Fortune. So Miss Fortune overall is just the strongest AD carry for the lower ranks. She is a very strong early game. She also scales pretty well into the mid to late game. She's a press R to win champion, so she pretty much has it all. She's just super simple to pick up, very effective, which makes her a great pick for the lower ranks. My second AD carry on the list for this patch is Sivir. So Sivir overall is just your safest AD carry pick that you can play. You're never really gonna lose lane on Sivir. You do have your spell shield, so she can do very well in a lot of different matchups, especially against a lot of the pick supports. You're always gonna be useful on the champion too. You do have the utility with your ultimate, so even if you fall behind with Sivir, you are still gonna find your uses during team fights. And then she does have the ability to stall out a game super late. She's got the best wave clear for any AD carry in the game, so if your team falls behind in the early game, Sivir is going to be the best AD carry that you can play to stall out a game and just reach the mid to late game for your team. And then my number 3 AD carry is going to be Jinx. So the reasons to why I think Jinx is great for lower elos is because she's really good at punishing over aggression and over dives. If the enemy team ends up over diving and you get an assist or a kill with Jinx, you're gonna pop your passive and you're gonna be able to chase the enemy down. And if they're all low on HP, if they end up over diving you and they take a lot of damage, the Jinx has the ability to clean up team fights better than any other AD carry in the game. So you can just find yourself getting a ton of kills with Jinx because the enemies are playing over aggressively. Once you reach your Infinity Edge, your Runins, and your Rapid Fire Cannon, or even your Infinity Edge and Runins, your teamfight ability with your rockets is really good. If the enemies end up bunching up in a team fight and you're able to get like 3 or 4 auto attacks off even during a team fight, then you're gonna deal a lot of AoE damage. And she is also one of the more forgiving AD carries as well, because if you do make that one positional error in a team fight and you can still get a passive proc in there, then because of that bonus movement speed you're gonna be getting from your passive, your positioning can a lot of the time not really matter, and you can get out of a lot of different situations with Jinx to where you would not be able to get out of them if you were playing a different AD carry. And then last but not least here, for the support role, my number 1 pick is Blitzcrank. I think that Blitzcrank overall is just super good in this meta right now because we're seeing a ton of squishy, ardent supports being played, and Blitz's ability to just take over a game in the early game is really good against those supports. You only really need one hook with this champion in order for him to be effective, and if you can just land that one hook in the mid to late game on the enemy when they are mispositioning, then you're going to be very effective on the pick. And because players will be mispositioning a lot more in the lower ranks, it is a lot easier for you to find those hook opportunities. And if you do end up running Shirelias on Blitzcrank, which I would recommend doing now, his ability to look for picks and his ability to just run right up to his target, knock them up with his E, and guarantee his hook is super effective right now. My number 2 pick for support is going to be Brand. I would definitely stay away, in my opinion, from the heal and shield supports for the lower ranks, mainly because there's just a lot more variance when playing those supports than if you're playing someone like the Brand or Blitzcrank. With the Brand, you always have the potential to carry the game. One good ultimate in a team fight with Brand and you can completely wipe the enemy team out. He also has the ability to have a strong laning phase and be able to snowball the early game for his team, and you're always going to be able to do something to help your team carry when you are playing Brand. And then lastly here, to round out the video, my number 3 pick is Morgana. So Morgana's kind of similar to Blitz in the sense that one good bind in a team fight or just at any point in the game can really turn the tides of a game and turn the momentum into your favor. And then because you will be seeing a lot more over aggression and just over diving in the lower ranks, Morgana is a great champion to play to punish that. If you do notice that the enemy Warwick is trying to go for a flank and trying to dive onto your back line, then you just throw your black shield on your high priority target, you lock him down with your ultimate, you follow up with a bind, and it's just very easy to lock that target down, prevent him from getting onto your fed carry, and just burst him out because of your strong crowd control. So that is going to be all for this video, guys. These were the 3 picks right now for every single role that I think are the strongest to carry with for the lower ranks. If you did enjoy this video, then be sure to leave a like and subscribe if you have yet to already. So thanks for watching, guys. Have an awesome day, and I will see you in my next video.